Hello, everyone. This is Tustin Longevity Center, Ask the Doctor. We try and do a weekly Monday evening Ask the Doctor chit chat. Any of the questions you might have regarding integrative medicine, alternative medicine, complementary medicine. We doctors here at Tustin Longevity Center here in Tustin, California, Southern California, have been practicing this for, I don't know, cumulatively, if you add up all the years with myself and Dr. Merrick and Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Kaur and P.A. Patel, I think you would easily get about 75 years of experience, if not more. And we try and do this so that everyone can get an opportunity to type in a question, a general question, because this isn't meant to be specific medical advice. I may or may not know who you are by your name that you use, but in general, I want to point out that this is generalized, not specific medical advice. And this is to kind of find out how we think about approaching various healthcare problems. So I'll do my best to try and answer those questions. And it seems to be 6 o'clock right now. So if you go on the chat, if you're logged into YouTube, on the right, you can type in your question and I will read that as we go along. We moved to 6 o'clock. It was a little hectic with work and stuff to try and be ready by 5:30. So I think 6 o'clock works better in general. So let me know how that works for you so you can type it in what you think of that. So why don't we begin? This is August 30th, 2021, Monday. Every Wednesday in the morning, just before work starts, as opposed to after work, we do a 9:45 in the morning, similar thing here at Tustin Longevity Center YouTube. So you could also, if I don't get to everyone's questions today, you could try on Wednesday, 9:45 to 10:15. It's a little shorter time. We also have an email. You can go to office@tlcdoctors.com, office@tlcdoctors.com, and you could put on there a question for Ask the Doctor, and then that'll be sent to Talon, and he'll bring it up on Wednesdays. All right, so let's see. The first question today is from Sean. I have a friend that was recently diagnosed with multiple myeloma, cancer of the plasma cells. That's the blood production in your marrow. Do you know of any integrative medicine therapies that may help? He's just started radiation treatment. So in general, the only person that is licensed to treat a cancer, multiple myeloma is a cancer, is an oncologist trained in that field. If your question is, can we give suggestions to help them with their immune system or with their nutrition or with detoxing, then yes, we have recommendations. And that would be always, it's best to go on a very, very low carb diet called a ketogenic diet or a carnivore-like diet, because cancer has a propensity in general to use a non-oxygen form of metabolism called anaerobic metabolism. And that form depends on a lot of glucose and sugar, glucose, starch molecules for the energy of the rapidly dividing cells. So the normal cells in your body are designed to be able to survive and do very well on a carnivore diet, a no-carb diet, because there are no nutritional requirements for carbohydrates. We have none, zero. Why? Because we can make sugar. It's called gluconeogenesis. And we can produce sugar if we need it. So That would be the number one thing. The other thing is I would eat in a window of time, say a 6 hour window between noon and 6 p.m. and stop eating, because that also helps the body recover. Um, Most patients can tolerate some fasting, do a 1 or 2 day fast under the management, depending on their particular situation. And so fasting is helpful. Systemic enzymes are very important to help get rid of the injured cells, the dead cancer cells, and clear them out of the system. So that is taken on an empty stomach. You can use Vitalzyme or Vascuzyme or Proteozyme. Those are the ones that we have clinically tested here in that order. And I would take anywhere from 5 to 10 once or twice a day on an empty stomach. And that will help cleanse out waste and debris and promote detoxification. I would also encourage high-dose vitamin C if you can find a physician who is familiar with high-dose vitamin C therapy. I would probably do that twice a week. You have to have a good G6PD. Most all of us do. I would say about 97% plus of the population has the enzyme G6PD, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. And so that is very, very helpful, and it puts a great stress on cancer cells. The cancer cannot metabolize and handle high-dose vitamin C, and the stem cells of the cancer cells certainly cannot handle this, whereas all your healthy cells can totally tolerate this. EDTA chelation helps promote detoxification as well, and microcirculation enhancement throughout the body. So if you improve microcirculation, use high-dose vitamin C, go on a ketogenic or carnivore-like diet, eat in a short window of time and never ever late at night, you take systemic enzymes, and you drink plenty of fluid, at least half your weight in pounds as ounces every day as a minimum. Try and walk, try and keep your circulation going. And then tailored nutraceutical labs can help predict what deficiencies might be there. You could be CoQ10 deficient, vitamin A deficient. I see selenium deficiencies often. Vitamin D deficiencies are very common. And other B vitamins, because it's very stressful. B vitamins would be very supportive. So this is how we would approach that. And hopefully that would help you, Sean, with that person. There's an organization called acam.org, ACAM, American College for the Advancement of Medicine.org, ACAM, ACAM.org. If you go there, you might find a list in your zip code of doctors who have gone through training on chelation therapy to promote detoxing and of heavy metals and to promote microcirculation. These doctors are more connected with immune support and detoxification and supporting the nutritional needs of patients, especially at a time like this. So that might be a resource for you. Okay, the next question is, let me see. Lynn, let's see, Lynn asks, hi, Dr. E. I heard synthetic vitamins imitate the original nutrients found in food and leave out vital cofactors that naturally occur in food. How do you tell if you're taking a synthetic vitamin? That's a very good question, Len. In general, we want our patients to eat a whole food diet, a diet that is free range for the animals. If you eat them, prairie chicken, wild caught fish, and so forth. And that really has a anti-inflammatory and a omega-6 to omega-3 balance that is far superior to these industrial farmyard raised cows and pigs and poultry and farmed fish. The other thing is we would like you to be eating organically grown vegetables and nuts and seeds. And we would like you to use, if you use butter, it should be raw, and butter or ghee from raw sources. Same for dairy. The other thing is wild caught fish. So eating whole foods as opposed to going to restaurants or going to stores and buying processed foods because they've been so corrupted. Now, given that, there are synthetic vitamins in a sense where they are mass produced. They're not involved in watching these effects for producing wellness like we do here when we use a nutrient. We are very often looking to see what laboratories would be benefited. For instance, if you had a high homocysteine, you probably have a methyl-tetrahydrofolate SNP that is not letting you methylate well. And if you don't methylate well, you have a higher risk of heart disease. But that's also very important in preventing cancers. So if we use a B vitamin, we want to test that and then do follow-up homocysteine levels and make sure the thing you're taking is producing the outcome in your clinical lab follow-ups that we do with you. So all I can say is I've been here for decades, and I see people coming in with bags and boxes of nutrients. These are not studied by the clinicians as far as does that use of that nutrient seem to bear a influence on having very good screening labs for preventative assessments. And so we'll see patients and they will just have high homocysteines. They will have low vitamin Ds. They will have low B vitamins. They will have low selenium and other items because they think that what they're taking over the counter is a good product. So there is no real regulation of that as well. So we doctors have to take on that responsibility to protect our patients. So we carry a nutraceutical support here that is available. We look at these clinical studies. We look at research on them. We fly out often to our few suppliers. We look at their companies. I was a chemist, analytical chemist before I became a doctor. So I'm able to scrutinize and talk with their science teams. And this is just another way I can help benefit my patients. But we do fly out, we do check, and so forth. So to answer your question, Lynn, how do you know? There really is no way unless that commercial product is put through scientific testing and then clinical studies. And that's never going to happen because that would drive the price of that product up. So we try and work with places that have this high ethical standard, moral standard. We fly out there, we test it here, and then go from that point. That's about the best way you can be assured that your nutrient expenditures, and then you have to balance that, Lynn, with a statement that the farming of foods in America, if you do nutrient assays of what an apple was produced in the 1960s compared to what apples here or any other vegetable, nut, or item, you'll find that these assays on these nutrients have dropped significantly so that the levels of the polyphenols and the minerals in them and many other items are much diminished compared to the 1960s. So even though you might be eating organic foods, some of this material is, the soil is not as good. There has been too much pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, geostratospheric engineering with these trails dropping from the sky, barium oxide, aluminum oxide, and this lands on the dirt, even on organic fields. And these are challenges. So it does take a bit of thinking to not only try and make your food, but to take a well thought out plan of nutrient support to kind of guarantee that kind of benefit for your body. All right, the next question is from Jennifer. Hi, Dr. E. Curcumin is widely recommended for fighting cancer. TLC's Deflame has turmeric and black pepper in it. Is turmeric the same as curcumin, or should we also be taking curcumin? No, they're essentially the same. And so that is why we do it that way. So hopefully that's a short answer. Turmeric and curcumin are what is produced. The herb is called curcumin. The plant is a turmeric plant, essentially. But they're the same, so you don't have to try and look for something that says the word curcumin. It's in there. All right, and then I'm wondering, Deborah, how are you doing? Can you type in here how you're feeling? I was able to be a support to her and her husband, and they had, I guess, positive COVID tests, and so we gave them ivermectin, and I think they're doing both much, much better. Audrey, hello. I heard a neurologist say to stop eating meat for 30 days for the brain to heal and arteries to thrive due to the saturated fat associated with inflammation, oxidation, etc. Andre, yes, because if you're buying the most common typical stockyard USDA grade meat cuts, they're coming from stockyards that are, the animals are stuck in these pens and they're fattened up with things they wouldn't normally eat, a very high carbohydrate, grain-fed, corn-fed food with antibiotics and with items in it that are pesticides and stuff like that. So medications, some even have steroids and growth hormones. And that meat is inflammatory. So again, Andre, whenever I'm talking about real food, I'm talking about beef that comes from prairie range grazing beef. It is a totally different inflammatory picture. And I can understand. That's why these books like the China study and others, I think there was a movie out there called Forks Over Knives. They did not sort out the sources of these corruptible foods. And so you could have a beautiful car, and if you put low grade 87% octane in a high performance car, you're going to burn that engine out. If you put high grade octane in it, then that engine is going to run more beautifully and burn down less. So hopefully that'll help you understand that, Andre. And then EH says, hi, doctor, I read online that you can become dependent on digestive enzyme supplements. Is there any truth to that? That's news to me, EH. I have never seen any real learned material talking in a negative sense about digestive enzymes to help you break down your food when you eat it. It could be that people learn that they feel much better when they help their digestion, and they just choose to constantly use it because there is a difference. I use our orthodigestive enzyme. I'm B positive, close to 70 years old, and I have been using digestive enzyme for at least 10 years, my late 50s for sure. And I have to tell you, I have to take 4 or 5 or 6 digestive enzymes when I eat to really feel that movement forward and none of that regurgitation or bloating. And most people who need enzymes to help digestion early in life are blood type A, because they are born, as a general rule, a class of people that don't digest well. And this can lead to an immune system lining their gut that's wasting its time with poor digestive product presentation to the gut. And then they're at risk for getting diseases earlier in life when they normally wouldn't have gotten them. So if they are using it, they would need it their whole life long. But I would say everyone who's past about 50 years old needs to try a digestive enzyme with betaine hydrochloric acid to see if you don't feel better after eating. Now, I eat a rich protein and fat diet. I'm almost a carnivore. I do eat a bar, my doctor's nutrition bar, because of all the science behind the cell membrane repair, immune resilience, and just general anti-aging that those wonderful fats provide, from the lining of your gut down to the skin on your body, not to mention your brain, your joints, and everywhere. So that does have plant product in it. But for the most part, I'm just eating steak or hamburger, chicken, pork, bacon, eggs, and cheese. So I need extra help with my digestion, especially at my age. Hopefully that helped you, Andre. No, EH. Hopefully that helped you. Okay, OC Women's Evening Class. Okay, is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine any better than the mRNAs, even with the warnings? If one has to get a vaccine, which one should I get? I have to say, I don't recommend any of the vaccinations. I say that because they have not given physicians the disclosure and the transparency and information of what's contained as adjuvants in them. This alleged approval by the FDA on the 21st or 23rd of August, they're supposed to, within 14 days, give full disclosure of what's in the actual contents of every vaccine. Just by the way, Japan has now decided to recommend ivermectin as a very strong recourse for treatment and prevention for flu viral COVID concerns. And they looked at the batches, and I think it's the Pfizer batches, but I could be wrong. And they looked and they found metallic substances in them and some red substance, and they have recalled about 380,000 vials. So how can I, as a physician, OC Women's Evening Class, how can I give informed consent or advise you when there is so little transparency, when we are starting to see a VAERS reporting system that is absolutely astounding on the reports of the injured and the deaths after vaccination to levels that have never been seen before with any prior vaccination program. Remember the swine flu pandemic in '76, they had, I think, 26 deaths and they stopped the vaccine. We have had, I think, nearing 13,000 in this country, and nearing 900,000 serious injuries, if I have my numbers right. And I have never seen anything like this tolerated by a rational physician or healthcare system. Now in Europe, I think the number is worse. I think Europe, they have 25,500 range, 25,500 reported deaths on their adverse reaction program. And they have 1.9 million adverse reactions. So how on God's good earth can I give anyone informed consent in the face of this much controversy? And so I must say that the adenoviral vector that transports the DNA in a single shot Johnson & Johnson is of as much concern and very little transparency. I also have been practicing 40 years, and Johnson & Johnson tried to squirm out of its its liabilities to the cancers from all the talcum baby powder and the cancers from it. So we're talking Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer have harmed and killed through the production of many prior recalled medicines, and the deaths from these prior recalls are just a process of doing business to these corporate entities. They're so bloody wealthy. Deaths are a nuisance. I remember Stalin once said, "The death of one is a tragedy. The death of millions is a statistic." So you have to understand, I am aware of all the recalls over 40 years of all these companies and the lawsuits and billions of dollars, multiple billions, that have been extracted as their payment for, homicide, negligent homicide. So I don't trust them. I don't like them. And I have never seen such malfeasance in the practice of medicine. Therefore, I have grave concerns. How can I give informed consent? So that's what I have to say about recommendations for this. Do we need, let's see, what does it say? Do we need to take systemic enzymes according to our weight? Well, I've never heard it given that way. I'm not saying that isn't out there or maybe even recommended, but enzymes are usually described as international units as opposed to milligrams. In general, we give them as a capsule or a tablet prescription. So we'll say 3 once a day on an empty stomach. That's my bare minimum for anyone, even adolescents. I take 10. And so at 180 or a little more, I actually need that much to not have pain, not to have inflammation, to have excellent labs. So hopefully that answers your question. Do we take it according to our weight? No. But I would say if you are over 140 pounds, I think I would take more than 3 Vitalzyme or Vascuzyme or Proteozyme a day, because they're pretty much bioequivalent enzyme productions. And I would say all women, by the way, who are on natural hormone replacement therapy, as we age, we lose our systemic enzymes and we get a buildup of dead old cells and we get inflamed. So if we take enzymes, like when we were young girls, then there's very little risk. I don't believe in my 40 years of practice. And I've had thousands upon thousands of women, including myself, on natural hormones. And I have never seen a deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism that I feel was linked with them being on hormones. So the other thing is, if you've taken the vaccination of these gene therapies, they really should be called gene therapies, then the spike protein production and the ACE2 receptor is something of concern, both if you've had COVID in a natural wild sense or you had the vaccination. And I would regularly use the systemic enzyme for months. So I would and permanently actually. So from a child on to an adult, if you've had the wild infection, then I think you should be on at least 3 systemic enzymes twice a day, morning when you wake up and before you go to bed. Hopefully you wouldn't have eaten before or after 6:30, so that by the time you go to bed at 9:30, 10, your stomach truly is empty. But if you weigh much more than that, I think you should start using 4 twice a day. Or if you're past 200 pounds, 5 twice a day, and so forth. So the heavier you are, the smarter it is to drink adequate water, half your weight as ounces every day, and take the upper limit of enzymes. So hopefully that answers it. Then do we need to, let's see, Pam. Anna sweats easily. Her fingers are slightly plump. At night, she gets itchy, which interferes with her sleep. too many questions there. How old is she? Is she postmenopausal? Is she a child? We shower as a nation too often, and we use too many topicals that introduces more poisons into our bodies, and like sunscreen and all kinds of topicals and stuff. So the more you shower, the hotter the water, the longer the shower or the bath, the more soap suds you have on, the more you rinse away your bodily oils that help keep your skin as you age as an organ plump, moist, and pliable. If you take that warm shower and suds up and wash your hair all the time, you're going to have drying, cracking of the skin, and you'll itch. So I tell people to get a stack of white washcloths and wash your armpits and your groin, and do that daily. And then once a week, take your cool to lukewarm, brief military 3-minute in and out shower. And then you don't need to put soap on your skin. It just needs to go where bacteria is produced. The water itself and the toweling off will exfoliate any dirty cells that are there. That will help with sleep quite a bit. And I'll do that for my worst eczematous patient. I mean, I've seen people with weeping eczema, and their skin is so dry and cracking, they're red and have a serous ooze. And I tell these dear souls, don't take a shower, don't take a bath. They'll get momentarily relief from it, but the minute they get out, they'll dry up, they'll crack, and they'll get the catch-22. The more they shower for relief, the more they dry up and crack. And I have seen the worst eczemas heal by going to the sponge bathing instead. So there you have it. Hopefully that will help with the itching of the, let's see, who's that? With the, yeah, now the slightly plump fingers. I don't know what to say, Pam, about that. And you'll have to be more descriptive age or information to give me some better ideas on that, or see a doctor. All right, Debbie, let's see. Hello, is there anything on those PCR tests, Q-tips, that is suspicious? I've heard there could be a carcinogen on those Q-tips. Thanks much for all your information. Well, that's a sensitive topic. There have been statements that the testing Q-tips have been contaminated with both potential viral material and with elements that are, toxic elements. Polyethylene glycine itself, I think, was one of the ones I saw. How serious has that been? Has it been looked at? Has it been really proven? I don't have solid data on that. I do know that just recently the head of the Medical Association in Japan has put a recall on one of the mRNAs, Pfizer, I believe it is, because of substances in the vials that is a dark substance they think is reacting to magnetism and some red material. So could these things have contaminants? Could this be an accident in production? Yes, it could be an accident, but when a child has a 99.99% survivability, when a otherwise healthy child I'm talking about, and otherwise 20 and below, and then you go from 20 to 40, they have a 99.98% of survivability if they get these symptoms. And then if you go above 40 to 60, they have a 99.95. And then I think if you go above 60 to 75 or 80, it goes to a 99.93 or 4. That's such high survivability in otherwise healthy people. But are Americans healthy? Have we eaten ourselves into a state of such metabolic syndrome, hyperinsulinemia from the starch, fruit sugar, juices, juicing, too many carbohydrates, and having high insulin, and that's inflammatory. Having too much weight, that's inflammatory. Not drinking enough water, that's inflammatory. Not exercising regularly, that's inflammatory. Staying up too late and not getting a good sleep hygiene habits, that's inflammatory. Not taking food that is as organic as possible and homemade, but always buying out and always having an excuse for some cheap, short-term, I couldn't help it. It was a bad day and I was too tired to cook, that kind of a scenario. So are we eating ourselves into a state of what they said, childhood obesity doubled in the past 1 year. I'm not obesity, childhood diabetes doubled. And then we're saying about 70% of all adults in America are have too high of a BMI, are obese, and about half are actually with morbid obesity. So we're seeing an epidemic in diabetes, along with all the heart disease and vascular damage, hypertensive damage to the endothelium lining. So have we made ourselves plump, and ripened for illness? Would we normally all do quite well with this passing viruses and so forth? Well, we're clearly aware that this is the very comorbid with at least 2 or more comorbidities. And we are also aware that it is in the very elderly. And so I cannot say more than all my patients have done well. Our patients have the cancers, have the prior heart disease, have the diabetes, but they also were placed as soon as they became a patient on a low carb, adequate hydration, enzymes to disinflame, B vitamins to check homocysteine, and just a whole lifestyle program and vitamin D such that all my patients did well. I did now since just last Friday, I think it was, I found out one of my patients who is in her 80s. She's a diabetic and she has heart disease and she has, arthritis and many comorbidities. And she is not obese, but she got a cold January of 21, January 2021. And she was put in the hospital because she had so many illnesses by her primary care doctor. And she did fine. She was never ventilated. She never had any serious need for supplemental oxygen. And she pulled out of it on her own. And this woman has been with me for years and years and years and years. She's in her 80s. She has a lovely, dedicated family. And when she looked under the weather, they got very concerned and brought her in immediately. And they chose to hospitalize her, but she did fine anyway. So now I can't say no one was hospitalized. I have to admit one of my octogenarians was hospitalized, probably didn't need it, but she did fine and got out and did well and is doing well and driving and doing everything she wants to do. But none of my patients, to my knowledge, have died. So out of the thousands that we have amongst us 5 healthcare providers, I think those are wonderful statistics, and it's a testimony to God and to the power of vitamin D, low-carb diet, hydration, systemic enzymes, EDTA chelation therapy, high-dose vitamin C therapy, Juice Plus, a multivitamin mineral with zinc in it that we give, TLC Energy Core, and other supplementation. So I feel like nothing changed in the past 2 years, nothing. And the only thing is we worked a lot harder for no pay, answering endless calls calls about this and that, concern. And, we don't charge for phone calls. But I have never put in so many hours, endless days in, weeks in, months out, years in now, answering phone calls. It's an amazing thing. But thankfully, everyone was fine, and we were just reassuring people for the most part. And many of these people had loved ones in other states, and they were asking what would I suggest. And I told them I can't treat them, but I gave them generalities like we talk about here. Let's see, that was a long answer. Let's see, to Debbie. So who knows if there are on these Q-tips they use to test PCR viral particles. I have lost my respect, and I have lost the integrity of the journals, the New England Journal of Medicine, the British Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, the Journal of the American Medical Association. There have been so many retractions, and I have never seen this. So even well-regarded virologists, epidemiologists, immunologists around the world have turned their back on these publications that once were highly regarded. And where can we go? You have to be a doctor who will open up the books at night. That's where you go, and you get on your knees and ask for God's wisdom at the same time to try and find answers. And you keep reading, you keep looking at the New England Journal of Medicine and the British Lancet, and you talk to your patients and you answer all the calls. Why? Because you love your patients. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And then you talk to your colleagues. The five of us here are often commiserating on various scenarios. That's why we have a monthly clinicians meeting, and we talk about it there as well. All right, so let's see. Okay, doing pretty good. All right, so Deborah, you're doing wonderful. Praise the Lord on that. Jennifer says, Sean, sorry about your friend's diagnosis. She's praying that you find a good integrative doctor where you're at. Then Pam, could we use ACV instead of digestive enzymes? Oh, apple cider vinegar. Yeah. Yes, you can. It is a reasonable first step, and it's one of the things that brought Bragg's amino acids and apple cider vinegar into such prominence, because it does help with digestion. So yes, you can use that, Pam. Amila, hi, Dr. E. What is the optimum D level for kids, 12, 14, and 16? In general, they are treated as adults, Amila. If their weight is about 85 pounds or more, and most children those ages are, they are really considered adults in their nutritional needs. So I would say it's very safe to give children 5,000 international units of vitamin D. I like it with K2 every day. I would, to be thorough, see your doctor and have a blood level done, within 2 or 3 months, just to be sure that the 5,000 international units is safe and effective, because there are some bad products out there, and here you think you're getting it and you're not. And it's not so much that I think you'll get a high dose of vitamin D, a fat-soluble vitamin that could create problems and harm the liver. It's really, I think a lot of people are getting Ds now that are being produced by corruptible nutrient companies, and they're just selling you cheap material, and here you think you're being protected. But it's good to get the D level, know where it's at, know that the product you're taking is good, and to be sure that the liver enzymes on a comprehensive chemistry panel, where that's typically done not just the basic chemistry, but a comprehensive chemistry will do the liver enzymes, the bile, and the bone enzymes, and it will do the kidney function and other aspects, as well as the blood sugar. So a comprehensive chemistry done a couple months later should be done. And I think you'll find that anyone between 85 pounds and 150 pounds can always easily tolerate 5,000 international units of vitamin D. They might need more. Let's see. Andre, I heard a nurse say ivermectin is a dewormer used to treat animals. She said it is not without risk or side effects and not proven or authorized use in COVID patients. What are your thoughts? I would say that nurse should go to medical school because she apparently hasn't kept up with the information. Ivermectin in 2015 and its founders were given the Nobel Prize for one of the most valuable medicines for humanity recognized by the World Health Organization. Not that I think much of the World Health Organization, but it did get the Nobel Prize. I don't think it's going to get the Nobel Prize if it isn't a generally well used and has demonstrated over decades tremendous benefit to humankind. You'll notice you don't hear much about problems with COVID in Africa or these areas that are in, drought areas or even in the heavily foliaged areas like jungles, because their risk of infestation with worms and malaria and other parasites is so high, they all take ivermectin as what they call a Sunday pill. There have been nearly 4 billion doses of ivermectin given. That's 4 billion with a B over the last 40 years. And in those last 40 years, I've seen the highest reported estimate of a death attributed or associated with ivermectin was 16 in 40 years. And actually, when you look at some of the autopsies, for a few were done, it was really felt that the person had such a huge infestation of parasites, and the ivermectin was so effective, it was the die-off of the worm that created the problem as opposed to an actual side effect of ivermectin. Ivermectin is a wonderful world humanitarian gift, very safe and very effective. We have over 55 studies published, out of which you could scrutinize to be nitpicking that the highest qualities of a randomized controlled trial were performed in at least, I would say, 24 of those 55 or 6 trials. And out of that 24 randomized controlled trials, the consistency of the value in reducing the time to shedding virus, the time of hospitalization length, or mortality and death has been so consistently reduced in these studies in multiple thousands throughout the world by various countries, including here in the United States. It's preposterous that some nurse said that it has risks or side effects and not proven or authorized. The National Institutes of Health had Dr. Pierre Corey and other doctors go to them last December of 20 and presented much of this material to them. And they changed their, I think their paid off assessment that ivermectin was not recommended, and they upgraded it to a neutral stance to it. So your nurse friend is misinformed. Let's see, Robert, if I eat a doctor's Great Bar for lunch and then have a dinner, do you consider that one meal or 2 meals for keto purposes? I love you, Robert. I would like to say that it is 2 meals. I too would like to consider it a 1 meal a day and live that idyllic lifestyle of OMAD 1 meal a day. But technically, it's a meal replacement. The bar is so good. So, but the good thing about it is it repairs your cell membranes, improves your defenses, your resiliency through your membranes in your nose and your gut and your skin and your hair and your heart. I am aware of studies right now on the men I did research, Dr. Oh, what is his name? He did the Gulf War syndrome studies. Garth Nicholson. Garth Nicholson, as one of the researchers in the world, is one of the most cited researchers where their name is brought up. Like on some of my publications, even today, I'll get on my email on academia.org. They'd let me know every time my research is cited, and it's kind of fun to see, your work being recognized. Well, Garth is doing studies right now on the heart, and this is for people who are concerned about myocarditis and inflammation. And he's using our phospholipids that are in the Great Bar, in the doctor's Great Bar. He's doing research on this, and he's actually showing that cardiac cells, which are different than regular muscle cells or other cells in the body, they have a electrical and contractual component to it that makes them more like brain cells in a sense. And the phospholipids are actually helping to recover injured cardiac cells. So eat it up, people. The research continues to come in that when you repair your cell membranes with phospholipids, healthy fats, we're made of fat and protein, you're going to have a healthier everything. So, yeah. So good for you, Robert. And hi, Talon. Love you. Happy birthday tomorrow, Talon. Okay. Deborah, what is the mechanism of ivermectin working on killing the virus? And does ivermectin work on regular flus? There is even now suggestion that ivermectin has anti-cancer, has a ability to kill malignant cells. So how does it do this? I just read papers or listened to lectures on ivermectin where it's actually up to 52 mechanisms of action that are understood from ivermectin alone. But the essential thing that ivermectin is understood to be is an ionophore, which means it helps bring in the zinc and other aspects of your body's self-destruction of viral replication and protecting the nuclear membrane from the viral particles from getting into the nucleus, from transporting information so that the nucleus will be allowed to send out DNA produced messages to alert the alarm system. So it's very much like a city. You have to have a fire truck that helps bring the water to the fire. And the water would be like the zinc, and the firemen are like ivermectin. And then the firemen turn the alarm on with their sirens so people wake up and start defending themselves and going to the stairways to get out of the burning building and the neighboring homes. So that's like the interleukin messages of the nucleus that are triggered to be made so that neighboring cells can beef up their defense and build up the immune response. So is ivermectin doing all these multiple things? Well, you could say, is the firemen doing all those things? Yes, in a way, they are doing all those things. So it is, this is what I love about people and science. When people love science, they love to think about how might something work and help someone, and it drives them. And so I've seen the best of medicine. At the same time, I've seen the worst of medicine in this past year and a half. I have seen nurses stand up and do tremendous feats and help and nutritionists and my front office girls and my IV with the vitamin C's and other people. I've seen the best of science and the worst of science. So I really like ivermectin. I think we're only beginning to learn, and I want to be positive that that kind of a doctor, that kind of a nurse, that kind of a nutritionist, that kind of a physical therapist, a Pilates instructor, a um, a vitamin producer company, the best is coming out of all of them to work together. And ivermectin is only beginning to show us how wonderful that drug is. Justin says, if I have SIBO, small inflammatory bowel disorder, or leaky gut, what type of doctor should I see? A good one. No, you could see a very well educated general practitioner in alternative complementary functional medicine and a gastroenterologist. So it isn't that we can do it all. We use our consultants, and our consultants in gastroenterology are starting to really get on board with probiotics and gut health items. I see more and more gastroenterologists prescribing L-glutamine for the gut, and they're learning about cell membrane repair, and they're learning about low carb diets and the need for healthy fats. So I think Justin, I think if you go to acam.org or you come and see a doctor like us, we're going to be able to take you a long way and probably solve your problems. You should get a complete digestive stool analysis that not only looks for ova and parasite, but it looks for the predominant bacteria in your gut, and it looks for bad or borderline imbalanced bacteria, and then dysbiotic bad ones, and then the amounts, relatively speaking. And then it will look for yeast, and it will look for fatty acids, and it will look for inflammatory markers, and it will look for blood and white blood cells, and it will look for immunoglobulins for protecting the gut lining, and on and on. So it isn't just a stool, ova, and parasite. It is a doctor that's going to work with looking at you in particular, your whole life, your background, and your stool, a complete analysis, your blood type, what are you eating, do you have nutrient deficiencies, and on, and then follow you through your healing. All right, Veronica says, if using ivermectin for preventative purposes, could it be used for a short period of time, say when traveling, and then stop and resume taking when needed in higher risk, more populated? Absolutely. You can certainly do that. And we would recommend that you think about if you're going to be in a compromised situation. I feel comfortable. I actually don't use hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. I have them both. I've tried them for a week each because I like to know what I'm exposing my patients to. I feel that approaching 70 and with every day working as hard as I do, I like the lifestyle, the low carb, the water, the enzymes, the Juice Plus, the Doctor's Great Bar for my energy and repair, the multivitamin TLC Energy Core, my Vitalzyme, Vascuzyme, my vitamin D, my iodine that I take, and I use the Argentine silver spray up my nose usually most nights. So if I'm going to breathe in a pathogen, I like to rinse it out before I go to bed every night. And Argentine 23 is nanoparticulate silver, and that has been studied at Bethesda Naval Hospital and even killed the Ebola virus itself. So yeah, I feel very confident in the future and what lies ahead and for all of us. And then Anne Marie says 6 p.m. is even better for us on the East Coast. Thank you, Dr. E. Great advice and sharing. Well, God bless you, Anne, and thank you for that wonderful dinner you got me for my birthday. Thank you so much for your visit out here. May God bless and keep all of you. I guess it's about 7 p.m. Unless there's some last pressing question, I'll see you Wednesday morning at 9:45 in the morning till 10:15. Please like and subscribe or put a comment in the section as well. And share this with your friends. It might be a great source. And I would just say, pray for your family and friends and for your doctors to do the right thing. God bless.